Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I hope you had a good weekend of riding your bike and you're ready for some exciting tech news from the world of cycling. This week featuring possibly the world's most expensive road bike. SRAM is taking a battle to Shimano in the WorldTour Pro Peloton. A popular bike brand returns to the UK, and there's a new internal routing system on the market that looks a good upgrade for your bike this year. But let's start with a possible leak of an all-new Cannondale CAAD 14 aluminium road bike reported by various bike media over the last few days and creating a frenzy of excitement for this new bike. The excitement is because it's been about 6 years since the CAAD 13 came out, and it's fair to say the CAAD 13 wasn't a very popular bike and it wasn't a successful follow-on from the very popular CAAD 12 behind me and the CAAD 10. The CAAD series has been an iconic, a legend in the road bike world for the last 2 decades. The CAAD 10 in particular, a very popular road bike, and the CAAD 12 behind me, I own 2, which I renovated in the past few years. Very popular road bikes that offer great performance and low prices and better value for money than carbon fiber race bikes. If these rumoured leaked photos are to be believed, it's a return to the classic CAAD 10, CAAD 12 design of a near horizontal top tube and non-drop rear stays, and looks way better in my opinion than the CAAD 13, which tried to follow the Super 6 Evo in that aerodynamic drop rear stay design, and definitely return to a classic looking road bike shape that I think many of us do appreciate in this world of aero shaped funky tube profiles. That's definitely a trend. We can safely assume the bike will have full internal routing like on the Super 6 Evo. There'll be a threaded bottom bracket as the company moved from press fit to 68mm threaded just a few years ago. There'll be a UDH dropout for 1x and 2x group sets, and hopefully space for 35mm wide tyres, but that's anybody's guess. It could be 32 like the Super 6 Evo, but hopefully it's 35 to make it more useful in the real world. And hopefully mudguard mounts, but I very much doubt there'll be mudguard mounts on what is essentially a race bike made from metal. Of the leaked images, the one with a SRAM Force Explore 1x group set is the most interesting. And because we have seen big bike brands like Cannondale, Trek and Specialized do aluminium, but really cap the builds at a sort of mid-range price point and not give those frames the top level equipment they definitely deserve. So Cannondale does appear to be offering a top level build with deep section reserve wheels and that SRAM Explore 1x group set. So yeah, it looks really cool. The big question mark for the new bike is around pricing. There are no details on price yet, of course, because it's all rumors and speculation, and it could be a red herring. But there is one person reporting that the SRAM Force Explore 1x build with deep section reserve rims could cost $7,500, which is fairly punchy, but it's worth remembering right now that the currency conversion for dollars to sterling is really bad. So probably more like £5,000 for that build, as a guess. The big question I have with the bikes is whether the prices are good enough, the value is appealing enough to make them a real alternative to a carbon fiber bike from other brands that offer carbon down to really low prices and really make it hard to justify aluminium over carbon, where you can often get the same carbon build more or less for the same price. Aluminium still rides really well, and the latest bikes from Mason, Standard and Blackheart, the prices are lower than carbon fiber but often roughly in line, so you're choosing one over the other, not for the value or the price you're saving. So yeah, pricing will be key for this bike's uptake, because while there's a big fan base and certainly a lot of loyalty for the CAAD 10 and CAAD 12, is that enough for people to rush out and buy a new CAAD 14 if and when it comes out? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. Would you rush out and buy the bike if it was released this week, this month? Let me know by dropping a comment down below. Right, how about a bit of bike porn for your Monday afternoon? This is a Bastion Archangel, and it's easily the most expensive road bike I've ever seen in my life, and the most expensive I've ever filmed, and possibly the most expensive in the world, because it costs a reported £35,000. Yes, that's a heck load of money, that is for sure. It is a stunning bike, a breathtaking bike to look at, and definitely at the point where bike becomes art, a real masterpiece of design, engineering, and just exquisite details everywhere on this bike. So Bastion is an Australian company, and the bike is made from carbon fiber with 3D printed titanium lugs, has their own handlebar with a big 3D printed tie stem and carbon handlebars, full internal routing, and just amazing details throughout the bike. And this bike is one of 88, so very limited edition, and each bike is bespoke, the frame, geometry to each customer, and it's an amazing amount of work that's gone into each frame. A reported 70 hours to make, with 130 machine hours for all the 3D printing and polishing on all the parts of the bike. I love the details on the bike, like the raw exposed carbon weave, the angel wings on all the lugs around the frame. Just looks amazing. I like that display of the lug work on the frame in the way that an old Cannondale C series had the lugs on show. They're not sort of smoothed over. You can really see those interconnecting joints on the frame. And of course, as the price dictates, it's a very high-end build, the best of the best, with a choice of SRAM red, or in this case, a Shimano Dura-Race DIT group set, with lightweight wheels, Pirelli tyres, the company's own crank arms with an SRAM power meter and carbon TI chainrings, and a ceramic speed 3D printed titanium pulley cage. So yeah, very exclusive, very rare, very beautiful, and very expensive. What do you think? Is it worth the price? Is it best to be hung in a gallery, or should be ridden on a daily basis? Let me know by dropping a comment down below and hitting that like button if you like this bike. From the world's most expensive road bike to one of the best value bike brands, Rose Bikes, a direct sales German bike company, are now back in the UK after pulling out due to Brexit some 6 years ago. So great news for cyclists wanting a great value bike based in the UK. I've been lucky to test Rose Bikes in the past at Road CC, and they always impress. Great ride handling, great performance, good attention to detail, good design, engineering in that sort of German way, and great value for money as well, because they sell direct like Canyon. No bike shops, you buy on their website and a box arrives a few days or weeks later, so passing the saving onto you, the consumer. And I was recently lucky to ride the Backroad gravel bike last year at the SRAM launch, my first experience on a Rose bike in many years, and it impressed me a lot. Good handling, nice and fast on the road, good off-road on the technical sections, pretty good comfort as well, and a really interesting, funky, curved handlebar too. And that is currently the only bike you can buy in the UK right now on the new website, linked down below, and it costs a very reasonable £3,500 with a SRAM Rival Explore group set. So great value for money, 3.5k for a bike with a SRAM Rival Explore group set. I mean, what more do you want or need? So yeah, definitely want to check out. Hopefully more bikes from their range available in the UK over the coming weeks and months. And stay tuned for hopefully a review of one of their bikes in the near future. Make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that button down below to not miss that. The internal routing of cables and hoses on bikes in the handlebar, stem and frame has become extremely popular over the last few years, driven by consumer demand. I see comments all the time for people wanting that clean, modern look, and also some aero gains for the pros racing these bikes as well. And there are different systems on the market. Most bike brands develop their own, or some use an aftermarket solution from FSA, NV or Data, but there's now a new option from Cane Creek. And Cane Creek, is worth remembering, are a headset specialist and actually invented the threadless system some 20 years ago when they were formerly Dicomp. So a company with a long history and expertise of headset engineering and a good proven reliability track record have now thrown their hat into the internal routing system with their own aftermarket solution that a bike brand can use, or you can use on your own bike as an upgrade. It might be a bit late, but better late than never, and it's a smart looking system as well. So the internal routing isn't fully internal, as the brake hoses or cables go underneath the stem with a clip to hold them in place. As we've seen on other systems, they're not fully internal through the stem, but means swapping the stem out is much easier. And they've worked really hard to make sure that top bearing is very well sealed to prevent all the dirt and grit and water getting inside to ruin the headset bearings, because that's a big issue with internal routing, is how long the bearings last and the pain in the arse that is replacing the bearings when they do wear out. So if they can last longer, that servicing interval should be a lot longer. And another detail I like are the spacers you have below the stem, which are normally plastic on bikes and a bit cheap. These are aluminium and colour match to the stem as well. And the stem comes in different colours too. I can definitely see this being an interesting upgrade, a good upgrade for gravel bikes in particular, with that longer, hopefully, service life of the headset bearing when you're bike packing and riding in crappy conditions, and let you customize the stem length to suit your needs. And I'm really intrigued to try it on one of my bikes in the future. So stay tuned for hopefully a full review on that system in the near future. And finally, SRAM is definitely taking the battle to Shimano in the World Tour Pro Peloton this year, while CAAD takes a step down. The World Tour Pro Peloton, the Tour de France, and all the races around the world, and the Cannondale are a global shop window for bike manufacturers to show off their latest products, frames, wheels, and group sets. And in particular, the group set battle has always been an interesting one. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was CAAD that ruled the roost. And then in the 90s, Shimano came along and pushed them aside. And in the 2000s, SRAM came along and had quite a good presence in the Pro Peloton. But in recent years, Shimano really dominated with just a few CAAD and SRAM teams. But this year, in 2026, CAAD is out because Cofidis, the team they sponsor, have been relegated from the World Tour, and SRAM have upped the number of teams they sponsor to 8 of the 18 teams, so almost on a par with Shimano. So really interesting to see how the pendulum has swung from one brand to the next. Now, clearly money talks, and a big checkbook can get you more teams in the Pro Peloton, because most teams are sponsored by the component brands Shimano and SRAM, although that's not always the case, as in the past we have seen teams who actually buy their own equipment, like Team Sky in the old days, and more recently UAE Emirates were buying Shimano group sets themselves because it gives them more freedom to choose or mix and match the components they want. Because when you're sponsored by a Shimano or SRAM, there's often small print about what you can and can't do in the mixing and matching of components, chain rings and wheels and so on. And one other interesting sidebar change is how it used to be the case that when Shimano sponsored a team with its group sets, they had to use their wheels, their Shimano branded wheels. But that seems to be less the case these days with Shimano, with only Matteo Van der Poel's team using Shimano wheels. Maybe Shimano are not interested in pushing the wheels as much, or teams are pushed back and want the freedom to choose other wheel brands like Scope and Envy and Princeton and so on. But SRAM are definitely very keen on their sponsored teams, like Tom Pidcock's team having Zip wheels on their SRAM equipped bikes. So interesting how the choice of wheels has been influenced by the group set choice as well over the years and this season. So yeah, so some interesting changes in the Pro Peloton, and I'll do a bigger, deeper dive into the bikes and equipment the teams are using in a future video. So make sure to subscribe to the channel by hitting that button right there if you don't want to miss that. And to see some other cool pro bikes, definitely worth checking out. Watch this video right up here. But that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.